Quick, come in.
I'm coming.
Sit down. Speak.
This is a very fast walk-in.
Yes,
You're
come
playing
in.
host.
My host, this is my comedy lair, and you are the first one in here.
Omid Djalili.
How are you, sir?
It's
great
a real
to be
pleasure.
here. Thank you.
You went to school very close to where I went to school.
Holland Park School. You went to where?
I'm not telling.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I bet our lot bullied you a lot.
In fact, if we were a similar age, you probably would have bullied me.
I would have bullied you, because you look like the kind of bloke I'd like to bully.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I just look at you going, that used to terrify people.
Okay, go. You can count us down.
پنج چهار سه دو یک مسابقه با امید جلیلی صدای ایران.
What are you saying?
I said interview with Omid Djalili. This is the voice of Iran. This is kind of, I used to hear that on Iranian radio when I was a kid.
You are fluent in Persian.
I'm totally fluent. Yes.
Brought up by Iranian parents.
Yes.
Religious.
Yes, my parents were they're Baha'is, which is a faith that grew out of Islam in the same way that Christianity grew out of Judaism. So there's a tenuous link, but it's a separate world faith.
And you went, in fact, on a pilgrimage in the 80s.
In 1984, yes, I went to see. It was on Mount Carmel, which is now Haifa, Israel, where I think a lot of the world religions have their shrines and pilgrimage points.
Are you still religious?
Yes, I think you can't really, when you grow up with a faith that says God is not 5 or 6, God is one. All religions are different chapters of the same book. Mankind is one, although we have a kind of unity and diversity. You can't really argue with that as much as you'd probably like to. And I used to rebel against it, but then I thought, yeah, well, fair enough.
Now, you try to push cultural stereotypes, don't you? Cultural barriers.
Yes, I'm pushed into it. No, I don't know if I'm trying to push cultural barriers. I think that I grew up with a real love for different cultures. I went to Holland Park School, which had about 44, as we've talked about.
Already,
yes, 44 different cultures were represented in that school. So I grew up with boys who talked like that from Nigeria, and then you had boys who were Jamaicans. You had such a melting pot, and it couldn't have not affected you. So I grew up with a real love and affection for different cultures. So if I talk about them, it's not to make fun of them, it's because there's a real warmth to it, I think.
You don't think there's any danger of reinforcing stereotypes with your comedy?
What, with this kind of generic Middle Eastern accent? Reinforcing what? What are you talking about? I challenge anyone right now to come and tell me I'm reinforcing anything, because it's absolute rubbish.
You are, of course, starring in a film called The Infidel.
Yes.
A David Baddiel film, can we call it that?
No, I would take very big issue if you said it. It's written by David Baddiel, and I'm the lead. We both co-produced it, and it's about a kind of Homer Simpson of Muslims who finds out he's adopted and his real parents are Orthodox Jews. Bang, lots of interest. He declares himself a kind of Muslim Jew, and all kinds of things happen. It is a comedy, we have to say. It's not as serious as it sounds.
It's not out yet, obviously. You've done a lot of acting.
Yes.
The Mummy.
Yes.
Gladiator.
Yes. You see how my head goes down? I'm more shamed. Now, Gladiator was good fun. That was a really good film. And I also did a bit in Pirates of the Caribbean. And I think the way I do movies now is that if they condense my movie days into a couple of days, I can just go off for a week and come back, like I did with Sex and the City too. So just condense it, do it. I did that in the middle of doing Oliver, actually.
Yeah, you've been playing Fagin.
I did Fagin, yeah. Fagin, my goodness me, isn't that... How controversial is that, to have not just a comedian, but an Iranian doing that? Did you raise an eyebrow when you heard I was doing it?
I haven't raised an eyebrow.
Can you do that?
I can't do it. Stop showing me up.
But I think
it's a challenging role.
It's a very challenging role, and what I did was try not to play him like a Jew like that. What I tried to do is throw in some Yiddish words. I called it Dodger Lobus. I threw in lots of words. When you can hear the Jews yelping, actually, because they like that, because it made Fagin more warm. And in fact, Rabbi Solomon from Westminster Synagogue says, Omid, I've got to say, it's the most pro-Jewish Fagin I've ever seen.
You've hung out with a lot of Jewish comedians in your time?
Ivor Dembina was my first comedy friend. And then people like Ian Stone, Mark Mayer, Steve Jameson. These are the kind of... I think there were Jewish comedians who, probably like me, somehow felt a little bit on the outside, and we all gravitated towards each other.
And you started out, what, in the mid-90s?
Yes, about 1996 was my first comedy club, Twickenham Bearcat.
What did you do before that? What were you doing?
This is kind of a bit part actor, but actually before that, between 1990 and 95, I did experimental theatre in the former Czechoslovakia, which was very good fun. opening scene of my first thing was a goldfish, tight a pin spot coming down, cello playing one note, lights come up, I've got a Magnum 44, click, goldfish explodes, I shout, Lenin! Blackout. It was brilliant. That's the kind of stuff I did. I got paid for it as well.
When you're on stage,
yes,
whether as an actor or a stand-up, do you ever get
I get very nervous.
Do
Yeah,
you?
I get very nervous. My mouth goes very dry, and it's a very, very... I'm always drinking water and tongue like that. How good evening, my name's Tommy. And it's a terrible thing, and a lot of people suffer from it. But somehow, it stopped.
And what do you do in your time off?
In my time off, I talk to people like you, looking and desperately waiting for this to finish. The 5 seconds ago. Panch, chahar, se, do, yek, abra, in Omid bud, sedai Iran.
And it hasn't gone off, the alarm.
Hasn't gone off.
What an
Well,
anticlimax.
But thank you very much. That was great fun.
I've never been counted out. Apart from the Count, actually, on Sesame Street. He counted me out.
The Count counted
He
you out.
counted me out. Really nice to see you.
Thank you very much.